Thanks to some unforeseen technical difficulties, no audio was recorded for the first 3 minutes of the podcast. This was not to our knowledge, so we just kept going. So the first 3 minutes of the podcast have been cut, and we will pick up right in the middle of our NKU women's basketball talk. Enjoy.
Much about Purdue Fort Wayne, but calling the game, looking at notes and stuff, that team, deep is almost an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
They have size on all ends. They're 8 seniors. They're going to be my pick to win the Horizon League tournament for the women's team. I think they find a way, and the loss that they just had versus Cleveland State, I think is going to be what kind of like carries them to get there. The press was the issue, though. Man, NKU could not figure out the press. It was close after the first quarter. NKU was kind of just hanging around. Purdue went on a little run, and then to start the second quarter, Purdue Fort Wayne Fort Wayne came out and played this full court press, and it was 7-0 within like a minute. NKU had no answer for it, and when they finally got the answer is when they put Morgan back there with Jones, and they were able to make the passes to the open three-point shooter, whether it was Hubert or Calissa Lacey again. Man, she was hot from the outside again last game. But it's not a bad loss. The team showed fight, and it's something you'd like to see. But, again, in year one compared to year 4 of a program, it was kind of expected to happen that way.
Yeah, and when you have a deep team like Purdue Fort Wayne, that's what you want to do is you want to press. Press is a very exhausting thing to do, but if you got 10 girls deep, it's a very nice thing to have. And I would like to see that style more often in men's basketball. I always remember the Press Virginia teams, just those deep teams that just pressed you from start to finish. Like, I would like to see more of that style of basketball. So it was nice. I was listening to you broadcast a little bit. Had the game up on ESPN Plus, and I'll like mute it and like just have you guys talking. And so I had that lined up, and it was interesting to see the press at work.
And I will say, what was surprising to see is Lauren Ross was 3 of 11 and 2 of 8 from 3. She was on pace coming into the game, potentially be the first ever women's player in Division I history since the creation of the three-point line for a 50-50-90 season.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's that.
Unreal. 50-50-90. Now, obviously, it took a little bit of hit yesterday, but she is a walking bucket. And I know we hyped up the Cleveland State player when we did the game for Player of the Year, but you got to think she's got, for Horizon League, she's got to be up there.
Absolutely. Yeah, Michaela Purdue was the one from Cleveland State because she leads the league in points, but Lauren Ross leads the nation in three-point shooting. So I feel like that's something that makes a case for Horizon League Player of the Year. But, yeah, just going back to that press, it was 12-9 NKU, and then they put the press on, and it was 23-12 very quickly, Purdue Fort Wayne. So that was the biggest difference is that second quarter.
Absolutely. Coming up this week, we got the Battle of I-75 at home Saturday night, 1 p.m. or Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. On ESPN Plus, and then Detroit Mercy on the road Thursday at 7 p.m. And then after that, just one game left in the season.
This season goes by so fast.
It's crazy.
It is. It's ticking down. It's ticking down very quickly. So hopefully we can get a couple wins to boost our confidence going into the conference tournament. For men's basketball, though, we got to win at Green Bay. And then we fell 92-70 in the second part of the Wisconsin stretch at Milwaukee, 31% from 3 and 44% from the field. I'm just at a loss for words. I was listening to a podcast today about some bracketology, and they got to, I believe Cleveland State's currently still in the lead. They've slipped a little bit recently, but they were talking about like the leaders of the Horizon League is like everyone, I've heard it like around, it's like Horizon League looks like a really tough league, could be a battle-tested team to get a 15 seed, and it's like NKU's not in that conversation. It's just sad to see.
It's the first time they won't have a bye in the Horizon League tournament.
Yeah.
So
since Darren Horn's been here at least.
Yeah. So that's I heard that while talking to Brady Libas yesterday before the game. But that Milwaukee game, to sum everything up, led 26-15 halfway through the first. went down at half 7, 42-35.
Wow.
So 26-15 to 42-35, like that.
Yeah, 3 Norse scored in double digits. That's not good, obviously.
No.
Biggest difference in KU was out rebounded 43-19, including 21 offensive rebounds for Milwaukee. That just can't happen.
That's more offensive rebounds than rebounds total.
Yeah.
Gosh, you're not winning any games with that at all. Was there anything else for men's basketball you guys wanted to bring up?
I mean, I could just revel in the Green Bay game if you want me to.
Yeah, sure.
Green Bay came in on a 20-game losing streak. That great program over there. We made it 21. Josh Dilling had 25 points. He's from Wisconsin, so it was really cool to see him be able to show out in front of his hometown crowd. Trey Robinson added 20 and 40-16 points in the paint in KU. So, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I would have forgot. LeBron even tweeted about this game.
He sure did.
Because he hates Doug Gottlieb. So LeBron basically knows about NKU and respects their game. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he should just be our coach when he retires. I think that would be great.
We got to get him out here to a game.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be a chauffeur. But coming up, they are headed to the Nutter Center tonight to face Wright State, Battle of I-75. They also got IU Indy on Sunday at home, 1 p.m. ESPN Plus. Purdue Fort Wayne on the road Thursday at 7 p.m. also on ESPN Plus. And after that, just Youngstown State left in the schedule. It is getting down to the nitty-gritty. It's getting to those 3 days, now 4 days in March that we always talk about. And not looking too pretty. So hopefully they can turn it around. On 4 wins. Let's do it. So we'll see. To wrap up, do we want to wrap up with some NKU baseball, softball?
Yeah, we'll just do baseball and softball very quickly. So NKU softball, Northern Kentucky University softball opened the 2025 season with a strong 4-0 start at the Pinnacle Blue Hose Invitational, winning 2 games on Friday and then dominating on Saturday. However, they lost 3-0 to George Washington on Sunday. They then went on to the Kennesaw State tournament. NKU went 1-1 on Friday, beating Creighton 3-0, but falling to Kennesaw State 5-3. Saturday saw a 10-0 loss to Creighton, but it then bounced back with a huge 18-15 win over Moorhead. They will now head down to the Governor's Classic in Clarksville, Tennessee next week when they will face Florida Atlantic, Austin Peay, and, of course, Moorhead State. They've played in 3 different invitationals, and Moorhead State has been in all 3. So I guess maybe
Moorhead.
Yeah. And then for baseball, obviously baseball started off last week because it is baseball season, Colton. Baseball season got underway for the Norse on Friday with a doubleheader against Eastern Tennessee State. Unfortunately, NKU had a rough time at the plate and dropped both games. In Game 1, the final was NKU 1, Eastern Tennessee State 14. In Game 2, NKU 2, Eastern Tennessee State 9. You're not going to win games when you're scoring 1 and 2 runs, especially in college baseball. On Saturday, the Norse tried to bounce back, but the comeback effort fell just short as they lost 6-2. Tuesday's game versus Dayton was postponed due to weather, and now this weekend they will play. Is it Bellarmine? Bellarmine. Thank you, Bellarmine, down in Oxford, Alabama. So it will be interesting to see. Obviously, it's just starting. A very nice start for the women's softball team. Baseball, they'll get things together. There's a big turnover, as Dizzy mentioned when we did the podcast with him. So it's going to take a little bit bonding and building cohesiveness. But I know Garrett keeps yelling at me 1 minute in my ear, but I'm ignoring him because we are talking baseball today. So I'm going to go ahead and let him talk a little bit about last week's signing of Alex Bregman to the Red Sox. 3 years, $120 million. Garrett, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so my first initial thought was that it was a weird signing because, the Red Sox already have Devers at third base locked up for the next decade, basically. So it seemed like an odd signing at first. Also, the value of the signing was weird. 3 years, $120 million puts him at around $40 million AAV, which is really high. That's really high. I actually looked it up. Per AAV contracts, he is tied with Aaron Judge at $40 million a year in third. The only 2 players higher than him are Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. So Apparently, Boston really values Alex Bregman.
I was going to stop you just, Garrett, real fast. Colton, Alex, I know you guys aren't quote-unquote baseball fans. You're followers. Did you guys know who Alex Bregman was before
I've
that
heard
deal?
the name.
Have you?
I've definitely heard the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because when you hear $40 million and you're getting your name against Aaron Judge, who's arguably the second most well-known baseball player in the world.
I was aware there was a difference between Judge and Bregman. Yes.
Okay.
I knew there was a steep line.
It is very interesting that all went down. The other rumored offers were 6 years, $156 million with the Astros, 6 years, 171 with Detroit, and then 4 years, 120 with the Chicago Cubs. I don't blame them for picking the Red Sox. I've been very high on the Red Sox this offseason. They have made splashes with a 1-year prove-it deal with Walker Buehler, 2-year with Patrick Sandoval, who might be coming back from injury, boosting the bullpen with Chapman, and then making the trade for Garrett Crochet, who we talked about a lot last year during the deadline. They're the one who finally won that. I like the Sox. Currently, they're projected to finish third in the East. But not only do I think they're going to win the AL East, I think they potentially win the entire AL and will be playing the Dodgers in the World Series. I am buying that lineup and buying that pitching staff.
Can't wait to hear about the bet he made on that all season.
No, I can absolutely see that happening. I mean, there's no doubt the Red Sox improved this offseason with all the signings you made. Obviously, you listed it off. Going a bit more in depth on this Bregman trade, because I did a little bit of research because I was curious, because the signing intrigued me that much. I went back and read an article. I can't remember who wrote it, so I apologize. But Alex Cora, back when he was working at part of the Astros staff, when Bregman first came up, tagged him as a player to watch. And now Alex Cora is managing the Boston Red Sox, and now he has his guy. Another thing to note, Alex Bregman, he has a career 1.240 OPS at Fenway Park through at least 90 plate appearances. That's the best in history, not the best last season, not the best of the past decade. That's the best of all time since they started measuring that metric. That's crazy. So it's a great signing because he has an insane amount of success in Fenway. So I really like this signing, and it also really fleshes out their infield. A lot of people were wondering with the third base. Devers came out and said he's not moving from third base. He firmly said that. So it looks like the deal right now is they're going to move Bregman to second, and that's going to be a really scary infield with Casas and Devers at the corners and Bregman and Trevor Story up the middle.
No argument there, my friend.
Would you add anything more?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, yeah, it's baseball season. All right, I admit it. It's baseball season. But for now, let's move along to our winner's circle. I'm going to go last because it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about next. So, Josh, you want to give it a start?
Yeah, I'm just going to give it to the NHL. They absolutely crushed it with their new All-Star Game theory of what they did. The tournament, the headlines, while the NBA is getting bashed left and right. Some people are questioning how competitive baseball is. Well, I'll tell you right now, this All-Star Game that the NHL put out there, specifically Saturday night, Team USA versus Team Canada, and then last night we got the rematch with Canada coming out on top. Beautiful job by the NHL. Now capitalize on this and build on it to help build your sport, because there's an opening to become one of the top 2-3 sports in this country.
For me, it's broadcasters. I don't know if you all saw, but Dick Vitale is back in the booth, fellas.
Yes,
and
sir.
Yes.
That's awesome. And then Hubie Brown, a illustrious career as a broadcaster and a coach, about 50-plus years in the league around basketball. So it's great to see that he had a great career, and I hope if I lived to 91, I sound as good as he did on that last call. But a little fun fact, he coached the Kentucky Colonels to their first ABA championship.
Really?
Yeah, so Hubie Brown, Kentucky legend.
Of course.
Garrett?
Yeah, so sort of echoing Josh's sentiment, baseball season is officially here. We had our first spring training game yesterday. The Cubs beat the Dodgers 12-4. But that's not the only news around the game, as the MLB unveiled their new ABS system, and we actually got to see it used in the first inning of the first game yesterday. Cody Petit hurled a low fastball to Los Angeles Dodgers third baseman Max Muncy, but home plate umpire Tony Randazzo thought it was too low. Petit gave Randazzo the challenge, 2 taps on the head. The new system, the way it works is they get the Hawkeye technology and they throw it up on the jumbotron and on the broadcast. And when they threw it up, they saw that the fastball clipped the zone. Randazzo turned around, made the call, switched the count from 1-1 to 0-2. Max Muncy struck out later in the at bat. So first successful use of the challenge system, and I, for one, I kind of like it. I can go over the rules a little bit if you want, if we have time, but we don't have to do that. But I think this is going to be a good system moving forward. We won't see it this year, but they're looking at, depending on how it goes this season, they may implement it next season in the regular season.
When we talk baseball, we'll bring that back up when we do a show on predictions and stuff like that, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, no, you can do that.
Cool.
Shout out the MLB though for actually like wanting to use Hawkeye technology, because the NFL certainly did not want to use it, and they made sure like it did not get like any traction whatsoever. Like that's pretty sad how the NFL handled that. But shout out to MLB for actually like wanting to do new things. For me, it's my winners are Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, and Evan Mobley, because they are now the odds favorites for the Defensive Player of the Year. Now, it's a sad way that they became that, because Victor Wembanyama is officially missing the rest of the season with a deep vein thrombosis. It's a form of blood clot in the right shoulder. The medical staff seems confident that this will not be a long-term issue, but this actually kind of helps the Spurs in a way, because now they can secure a mid-lottery pick. They have a protection on their pick that they could have lost if they ended up making the playoffs, so they will get that mid-lottery pick. And it's better to err on the side of caution, I would say, in this side of his career at the earlier end. So hopefully it's nothing serious. Some people make the point that Chris Bosh had a blood clot and that ended his career. I would also just point out that he didn't have too many years left at that point, so he might have just thought, what's the point in going out there and risking it? But it is still a serious thing that hopefully was it PJ Washington, I think, had one of those.
I think so, yeah.
Or Brandon Ingram. It was Brandon Ingram.
Okay.
Had a blood clot. So yeah, hopefully it's kind of where Brandon Ingram did not have as serious of one, and Wemby will be back next year.
They can create a three-headed monster now with Fox, Wemby, and whoever they get in this draft. Cooper Flag.
They're not getting Cooper Flag. They're not going to fall that far.
Never know.
You never know with the lottery.
Yeah, magically there might be a frozen card or
a frozen ball
or basketball.
Or they do it like digitally now or some bullshit.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Like well, there you go. So the Spurs won the first pick. That's nice.
Me and Josh were talking about it. It's random, but we don't think that's happening.
I don't think it's ever.
There's no way there's no way they're letting the league have that. But yeah, this is really sad. As long as it's not like the Chris Bosh situation, it's okay. It's like you said, it's better to err on the side of caution, but it just stinks because like this is 2 years now, definitely 1 year, maybe even 2 years in a row now that he should have won Defensive Player of the Year, and he's not going to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. At least Rudy Gobert isn't going to get it.
Yeah,
I think everyone's happy about that. But that's not the only thing that's been talked about in the NBA, as the main talking point has been the NBA All-Star last weekend, which is normal. Typically, you want to talk about your All-Star game, but not in the way it's being talked about. I will just be flat out honest. I did not watch the game. I saw a couple highlights. What I also saw were some stats. The broadcast was 3 hours long, and only 42 minutes of that 3 hours consisted of basketball play. There was 4 games played. Also, it took 40 minutes just to get to the first tip-off of the game after all the pre-game stuff, I guess. So you tune in at 8, you're waiting for it. Oh, let me go watch the hockey one instead. Because that was going on at the same time, right? Or was that on Saturday?
It was at the same time. Saturday,
Same time.
Saturday 8 o'clock.
The All-Star game was on
correct,
Sunday, so
correct,
never
yeah.
mind. Go watch the Daytona 500 or something, which I'm sure not many basketball fans do, but that's what I did. But honestly, to me, the game is a joke. I don't think the broadcast does anything to make it seem serious whatsoever. They don't take it serious at all. And so why should I, as a fan, take it serious if you got Kevin Hart out here roasting players, and you got, Shaq talking about Bol, who's not even in any of the events throughout the weekend, throughout the game? It's just like, why should I care? As a basketball fan that loves basketball, why should I care?
And that was going to be my big thing. Obviously, you guys know, and I've made my point many times. I wouldn't say I'm an NBA fan.
I think you say that once an episode.
yeah.
I follow the sport though, and it's just you said the best though. If the players don't care, like I heard Kevin Durant basically saying afterwards, we might as well just cancel the thing. Draymond's absolutely hating on the sport. But before we went on the show, I asked you, I was like, is there any athletes that hate their game more than NBA players hate basketball? you could argue the best player in the world. He just wants to go with his horses.
Yeah.
I mean, right? Like,
Where my horses?
And then you have, now we're going to put an asterisk on this, but there's these players that they're now talking about, one of the best in the world in Luka and all the promise in Zion, and they can't get their eating under control. Like, it's just kind of weird that so many of these players that have all the talent in the world to build this game, because it is a very easy game to expand worldwide. Basketball is one of the easiest things to play. You just need a made-up hoop and a basketball, and you can play by yourself, or you can just play with you and your buddy. It doesn't make sense why these players hate it so much and almost want to argue kill their game.
Let's not make the Luka and Zion comparison again. Those are two completely different eating disorders. And other disorders that Zion has. But yeah, it's a fair point. The only thing I have in the defense of the players is, from what I saw in the highlights, up until about that last game, I thought they were giving a solid effort. I didn't think it was that bad of an effort compared to past years. Maybe it's because it was a smaller sample size. But what I noticed was, I believe it was at the halftime of the final game, they did a 10-minute TNT like tribute, I guess it was.
Yeah, even though they're just like changing channels. But anyways,
yeah.
the gone fishing bit was good, but that was about the only part that was good.
Yeah, the gone fishing was great. But why is it 10 minutes? Why are we doing this in the middle of the All-Star game?
Yeah.
And you got all the players just standing around, like, just watching it go on. And it just feels, and it's not like it's not the last TNT broadcast. They're still going to be doing it until the end of the season. So. And
we had a 2-hour pregame to the All-Star game. Put all that stuff there. Also, why are we having a concert in the middle of the game, too?
Yeah, they did that concert. That was
what?
Yeah.
Hey, that's the closest the ball will ever get to an All-Star game again, okay?
No, that was good. That song is good.
He was the one who did the concert?
No, that was the concert in, like, the first night.
Okay.
Again, too many concerts.
I was like, there's no way they made LiAngelo Ball.
This is a basketball weekend. Why are we having this many concerts?
So ratings have also plummeted. It was down 13%. However, our wonderful friend over here, Alex, has some ideas to fix the weekend.
You did.
Would you like to share some of us? By the way, you can check out his article on twsn.net.
Yeah, so let's just go through the whole weekend because it's terrible. Celebrity game, boring. I don't know if it's just my demographic that doesn't really recognize the celebrities all that well, but I was not interested, and I'm usually very interested in the celebrity game, so get better celebrities. Or, here's another option, make it a multi-league celebrity game where you put the MLB versus the NFL and have them play some basketball. That would be fun.
I mean, I'm going to say the Kelsey brothers have already talked about how they think like NBA players could go to the NFL or NFL players could go like that. I like that idea.
And then if you don't want to do that, we always like to talk about hypothetical games. Make a what-if game, like a 2008 Celtics versus 2004 Pistons. The best players from those come and play a random pickup game. So many people would watch that, and this is just an embarrassment what they put on for the celebrity game. If we have to keep going in this, make it shorter. Why are we watching a 40-minute celebrity game? But anyways, Rising Stars game, that's actually going well because they don't want to be embarrassed by the G League, so that actually went well this year, I feel. Make the celebrity game shorter, though, so that could start later, and it could lead into the Rising Stars game, which is what people are tuning in for. The skills challenge, this is the most it's ever been talked about because Wemby and CP3 hacked it, and they hated that. They are opposed to fun. So get rid of that, and I don't know, maybe put in a one-on-one tournament like the WNBA did with Unrivaled. That went pretty well. Three-point challenge. I don't really know that you can make that better besides like forcing Steph to be in it every year because it feels a little empty without Steph. The dunk contest, it just has to be more than one guy. Mac McClung, thank goodness for him because he saved the weekend.
Or the Lakers just bring him out of his dungeon for a week and then send him back down.
Magic, but yes.
Whatever.
Stephon Castle was good, but the rest, like, why is Marjon Beauchamp in the dunk contest? Somebody please tell me.
He's dunked before.
Yeah, for sure. About as many times as I have. It'll look like Matis Buzelis, or however you said his name, had the same condition I did. But then for the All-Star game, we cannot have those breaks. Like I said, that's got to be in the pre-show, and then the incentives, bring back charity for each quarter, because people were actually playing hard, because you're going to get called out if you're not playing hard for charity.
Mm-hmm.
And then injuries. You have to report on the Thursday before All-Star weekend, I feel like, because then you're just costing somebody an All-Star spot that could actually play in the game, that actually wants to be there, and LeBron and Ant.
I was going to call the first time out ever. Did you just bash LeBron James?
Yeah. People pay
How
good
dare
money
he.
to go to the All-Star game and to go to this weekend. That sucks. Mainly to watch LeBron James play basketball, and he had it decided well before 30 minutes before the game, like he decided he's not going to play. And then Anthony Edwards was pleased by that, because he just randomly pulled himself out of the game too.
I had to fix some baby mama issues.
Yeah, and so injury report has to be before they get to the actual arena, so we can find some replacements.
Absolutely.
I like those ideas, especially, like I said, the celebrity one. That would be really cool to see, because, again, you have all these players talking about how, I could play in the NBA, or, I could play in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. Like, go ahead. Let's see these athletes play in some of these sporting events that they're not used to be playing. And MLB versus NFL, but they always talk about which one's the better athlete. Well, it's pretty obvious who's the better athlete.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I got NFL by 40. Miles Garrett's dropping a quick 40 piece.
Shout out Jabril Peppers, or not Julius Peppers, coming out of retirement. Ball out, man. You talk about a boy who could get it on both
Cooper
ends.
DeJean? Just do NFL versus NFL. No offense, baseball, but like, come on.
Yeah,
Cooper DeJean versus Miles Garrett. Oh, baby.
AFC versus NFC. There we go. But yeah, I do love that. And it's honestly a shame, because growing up, I don't. It's 3 different generations here, I would obviously say. Was the dunk contest ever fun for you guys outside of the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine day? Okay, I took the one from you. Your generation had a few, right? Like
Nate Robinson, Dwight Howard, good for like 3 or 4 years.
I was there for the Nate Robinson, Dwight Howard. I do remember that.
I had Vince Carter.
Yeah.
my generation was spoiled, and I think that's part of it. It's like Vince it was every dunk contest, but even the years like Jason Richardson kind of became a household name because of his dunk contest. I have no problem with these younger guys coming up, but John Moran, stop it! You're not going to do it. You're going to break your knees if you attempt to do that. Just stop.
We got to find a way to get those big players in, or get like the social media dunkers like Jordan Kilganon, who does the most ridiculous stuff that shouldn't even be possible for a human. Put him on the screen. People would love that.
Just make it
NBA players would love that. Yeah. I don't want to watch Marjon Beauchamp try to jump.
I don't want to watch Marjon Beauchamp.
Who does he even play for?
He got traded from the Bucks.
Yeah, he was on the Bucks.
Is he on the
I don't
Wizards
remember.
now?
That might be true.
Was he in the Cougs? No, I think he was in a different trade. We don't care.
Yeah. He's not dunking where he's going.
He won't be around for much longer. So,
but I do really like those ideas, Alex. As someone who cares about the game, basically the way I look at football and baseball, the way you look at basketball, you want to see this game expand and grow. I see all those being very successful. And there is another way of doing it, but we'll get to that later in the 2-minute warning.
You sure will. At the end of the day, just try it. At this point, I really don't care what they do with the All-Star game. I feel like anything is going to at least draw up some attention. Don't do anything like stupid, like another Mr. Beast challenge. But
oh my god,
that was something else. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool at first because Dame's in it, so I'm happy. And then when they like got to like the last 30 seconds, and Mr. Beast's like, come on, let's go, you're about to take us to break. And then like told him to like jump into the money. I mean, I personally would have jumped in the money like without having being asked, but like just like trying to force that, I thought that was interesting. But shout out Dame for letting that kid win, because
he definitely let him win.
He's definitely just like. Yeah, you could just tell he wasn't giving 100%. But
there was one more news out of the NBA since they came back. Did you all see Bobby Portis is now suspended for 25 games?
That's insane. Yeah, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, 25
it's like
games.
the DeAndre Ayton one.
He will come back. I think it's like 2 games before the season ends. So does that carry over? Is it weird like baseball? Will that carry over to the playoffs where he's not allowed to play?
If it goes over the limit, I would think.
It would, yeah.
No, he comes back to literally 2 games before.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but if it were like 28 games, yes, he would miss.
Okay. Because for baseball, if you're suspended for any more than 25 games, you're not eligible for the playoffs.
Oh, I don't think that's the case. No,
Okay, so yeah, so he will be back in time for the playoffs. But if for a team that's competing in the 4, 5, 6 seed ish, that's kind of big to lose one of your best bench role players.
Yeah.
Second best rebounder, probably.
Second best behind Brook Lopez. Yeah, that's very true. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able. If they fall. I'm assuming they'll fall a little bit. I'm not sure what the standings are right this second, but we'll have to take a look at that. But now it is time to move. It's halftime, guys. Halftime break. Time for some halftime highlights. Garrett, you ready?
We'll see.
All
right, let's see. I believe I have Mr. Alex is up first. Well, not that way.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can fix that. There we go. All right, Alex,
There we
go
go.
ahead and walk us through this.
All right, LeBron James running down the lane, and
Oh my goodness,
Not much to run through.
that was vicious.
He just ran through his almost teammate.
yeah, right through the defense and said rescind that.
Is that Bronny?
Mark Williams is now on the injury report for 3 more weeks. The status is poster. That was an unfortunate.
Gracious.
Yeah, LeBron said he was hurt and then went and did that 2 days later. So
That
I don't know if
Bronny
I'm
reaction
buying
is
the
great.
injury designation in the All-Star game.
Yeah, that's
That man's
that's
40.
crazy.
Yeah, 40 years old.
And he dropped 40 last night. But anyways,
No, that's
Goat.
crazy. All right, next one we got is, I believe this is Josh's.
Yes.
All right, so
Go ahead and walk us through this.
Yeah, so Georgia Tech was down 3-0 coming into the bottom of the ninth, tied it up 3-3, and then ACC Freshman of the Year, Drew Burris steps up to the plate. Gentlemen, that is a walk-off grand slam. Always very nice to see, and that is the second game of the year. Or no, that was the first game of the year. So a great way to start your season and build off an excellent season from last year. Kid is an absolute stud. And I don't know how he ends up in Cincinnati, but he can play the outfield and he can bop. I need him in Cincinnati eventually.
Those Georgia Tech unis are clean as hell.
Those do look pretty. Those do look pretty.
What do you got
All right,
next?
let's move on. Let's go ahead and tackle Colton's piece
All right,
here.
so we got this coming to the final lap. Riley Herbst sideways, going about 160 miles per hour, just doing a little dirt racing there on the infield of Daytona. Saves it, stops the caution. Absolutely, he's not the best driver in the Cup Series, but that was one of the best saves. Definitely save of the year so far.
Did I just watch the scene from Cars in which
Yes.
Lightning McQueen saves his race? Because that's exactly what happened. just
You
now.
absolutely just witnessed that crazy save from Herbst, who has a couple. I was looking at this, and a couple other ones came up, and I was like, dang, yeah, he's just really good at saving it.
I'm going to say, is he a little bit more talented than we kind of give him credit for?
Maybe we'll find out this year. I think at the Cup level he could very well be a Cole Custer, but we'll see.
All right, and last but certainly not least, we'll go ahead and go with mine. This is Ryan Fox,
Sorry.
New Zealand golfer. Mexico Open kicked off yesterday, and so this was for 92 feet for a birdie on a par 3. Usually this is just a lag putt, but he insists on draining it with a little 360 flare for birdie.
the finger roll.
Oh my goodness! It was one of the best putts. If you've never tried to putt a ball into a cup 92 feet away, that is one of the most impressive things I have ever seen.
And it's also one of those aspects where pro greens are a lot different than the greens that
Oh,
we're
yes.
playing on.
Oh,
There's
yes.
little hills in that. To read that from 90.
Yeah, no,
well done,
incredible
Ryan.
putt. Last checked, he's currently tied for 56th at 3 under in the tournament. So hopefully he'll make the cut. Cut was 2 under. So hopefully he'll be able to see out the tournament in that awesome putt.
There are very few things I know about golf, but I know that pro very different from the links down the road.
I'm gonna say I cannot emphasize enough from like just going to the Masters alone. There's more hills in the Masters greens than there is over in Delhi. So
Yeah,
I just know they do 90-foot putts in Truist Arena, and the average person looks like they don't have arms. So I feel like that speaks to how
And think
difficult
about
that is.
the basketball court is a mostly flat surface.
That too.
Yeah. Well, it's a little harder because the ball goes a lot faster. Than it would.
That's true. Yeah.
So there's not as much drag. You can't really, whatever. Arguments. But speaking of basketball, Let's talk about some college basketball as the committee actually revealed their top 16 teams, which essentially would be if the tournament started today, here are your top 4 seeds. At the 1 seed, Auburn, the number 1 overall seed. Bama, Duke, and Florida all also getting 1 seeds. At the 2 seeds, we have Tennessee, Texas A&M. This aged poorly, but Purdue, Houston, that rounds out the 2 seeds. At the 3 seeds, we got Iowa State, who's probably snuck into a 2 seed after Purdue. And I think, did A&M drop a game this week as well?
Yeah, A&M dropped versus Mississippi State.
Yeah, so then probably ISU's pretty safely in that 2 seed spot. Then you also got UK, Wisconsin, Arizona rounding out the 3 seeds. And then at the 4 seeds, you got Texas Tech, Michigan, Kansas, and St. John's. They also mentioned Michigan State and who was that other team? There was another team there, but Marquette as being like 5 seeds, right on the cusp of being a 4 seed. So this was released on Monday. It's currently Friday, so it's quite outdated. But still, some that top 4 there probably all remain the same. Bama actually, after dropping to Missouri, could maybe be down to a 2 seed.
So they lost to Auburn too, so they've lost back to back now.
They have lost back
Sorry,
to
Kentucky.
back.
Can't wait.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see kind of the lines drawn. I don't think it was very far off from what we had kind of seen as in those. I found it interesting St. John's down in 16th, though. They're 10th in the AP poll. I consider them to be a top 10 team in the country, but seeing as their Big East schedule is not as tough as some of these Big 12, Big 10, except they were in the toughest part of their schedule this past week. But apparently that loss to Villanova maybe hurt them on that. So just looking at these, are there anything that stood out to you? Anything you agree or disagree with in those top 16?
I think just with it being Friday, that like you said, they're a little outdated.
Yeah.
So Michigan and St. John's, I feel like are already up on the 2 line, if the 3 or the 2 line, but like
Yeah, and Purdue and Kansas are far away.
Yeah.
Kansas isn't even in. I don't even think they're top 25.
Michigan and St. John's continue to impress me, and I definitely know they're going up on that bracketology, but
I would
that's
say
one thing that
Wisconsin
I have
as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
That was going to be my question because you mentioned like A&M had that loss, or I mentioned A&M had that loss versus Mississippi State. Purdue had their tough week, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Houston, Alabama has a little bit too far of a gap that Alabama would still be the 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
Or a 1 seed, they would just be the 4th one now behind Auburn, Duke, and Florida, who are, by the way, the clear 1 seeds to me. Those 3 are well deserved, and then it's just who gets the 4th one. Which, if Houston were to win the Big 12, they have to get the 4th one, right?
depends how Alabama does in the SEC tournament. I feel.
I'd say it depends upon Alabama. I would say as it stands now, I would probably put Houston above Bama.
Okay.
After their 2-game slip against 2 really great teams, and I want to talk about Missouri in a minute. But additionally, I think Iowa State kind of needs to be in that conversation. They had a really rough stretch with some injuries. They're now back healthy and looking like the team that was a 1 seed for quite a bit throughout this season. Remember, they lost to Auburn by, I believe it was 2 or 4, like a 1 or 2 possession game. Like this Iowa State team is tough. They're much better offensively than they were last year, and I think if they have the potential to win the Big 12 and win out. And assuming if Bama drops another game, and would have to beat Houston probably to win the Big 12, I could see them sneaking into that number 1 seed category. But we want to move on to the teams we kind of highlighted for this week. Alex, I'll let you start.
The first one I got is, of course, Kentucky, who had a revenge game, 82-61 against Vandy. Colin Chandler, let me put some respect on your name because I've disrespected you quite a bit. Had a great game, and then Owe with 20. But Amari Williams with one of those games that sounds like an ESPN stat that everybody hates. But the first player with 15 points, 4 blocks, and perfect shooting game with no fouls since 2010. So a perfect game from him, and I was very impressed with how Kentucky responded, especially in this game.
What happened versus Texas?
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that one.
That was one of my questions. Is Alex, what happened? Texas 82, Kentucky 78.
We just love to lose to the bad teams. That's where we really shine. Death Texas and Kentucky's going to lose to teams they shouldn't.
It's crazy though, because what do you know off the top of your head what their record is now in conference? Like it's almost 500, right?
It's 500,
which is insane to think about because they're still easily top 15 team in the country. The SEC is so stupid. Colton, speaking of what happened,
Here we go.
94-84 Wisconsin over Purdue, and then 75-66 Michigan State over Purdue. Colton, you worried? What's going on with your boys?
You want to hear complete honesty? I didn't even watch the Michigan State game. I was like, I looked at it, and I'm like, well, we can't guard the paint. Michigan State likes to score in the paint. Why would I want to go through that pain? Yeah, it's looking ugly. Of course, fans are starting to stir up. Some random podcast like Twitter said that apparently Cam Heide and Miles Colvin have a foot out the door, which is probably true. And please, Cam Heide, by all means, leave. Go somewhere else. Goodbye. You cannot shoot a three to save your life. I could have a better percentage shooting three. I promise you. He's like 21%, but he still continues to shoot 2 threes a game. And he's never been a three-point shooter, so I don't understand why he thinks he's a three-point shooter. But anywho, I do hope Miles Colvin, I hope that isn't true, the rumor with him. But at the end of the day, this team is Trey Kaufman-Wren, Braden Smith. TKR is absolute bucket, by the way. Alex sent that text. I'm glad you're familiar with the game now. That guy is a bucket. And then Braden Smith is outstanding point guard. Fletcher Lawyer is great, and then he's not. If he is not scoring, he is contributing very little to this team. Very, very little. The Michigan State fans were cheering his brother, Foster Lawyer, said Foster's better. And I was like, how can you argue that? Especially with the performance he put up against Michigan State. It's ugly. It's ugly. And at the end of the day, I want to say they'll right the ship, turn it around. There's analysts that believe they're still a Final Four team even after these 3 losses. And I don't think they're a weekend 2 team anymore. And the reason for that is because they can't guard the paint. They cannot. They are the second worst team in the Big Ten or they have the second worst 2-point field goal, which means opponents have the second best of anybody else in the Big Ten. And I think that's the easiest thing to exploit in March Madness. Just spend a whole week preparing, or not a week, but however long, 4 days, preparing to score in the paint against this team, and you got an easy win. So maybe you majestically get past the first round. I don't see you winning 2 games in a row with the state of the defense. I think currently our defense is ranked 113th in point. I think defensive rating is somewhere in the mid to late 100s, and that wasn't the case about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago, we were hovering around that 30s, I think. I thought it was pretty good. So, yeah, it's a fall from grace. We played definitely the 3 toughest teams we played in Big Ten so far, and we lost all 3 of them. So, prove me wrong. That's all I really have to say. Very ugly week, and we got IU at IU on Sunday, a team that likes to score at the paint. So, can't wait.
That should be an okay get back spot though, right? Or is it at IU? You said it's at
IU.
So that's a tough
Mike
game.
Woodson's been playing better recently.
Oh boy,
they've been playing for Mike Woodson. Crowd's going to be crazy. Yeah, give me 4 losses in a row personally. That's where I'm at with this program right now.
Man, the night-and-day difference from like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks, yeah. I'm paying all the karma for all the shit I gave you guys. So, no more shit giving.
Zach Edey really had that big of an effect.
Yeah. Zach Edey was our defense in the interior. He was a Emeka Okafor, but better interiorly. So, yeah, it's painful. But I wanted to go ahead and get to my actually. Since I talked about Purdue, I knew that was kind of your talking point. But I'll let Alex take the next one. So I've been yapping.
All right. If there's one thing I love to talk about, almost as much as a Kentucky win, it's an Arkansas loss. So Auburn played them. If you like offense, this wasn't the one for you. 69-60 Auburn win. The teams combined for 77 for 43 from deep. That's bad. Arkansas won in the paint, but 13 offensive rebounds for Auburn was the big part of why they won. Big part of why Arkansas lost, Big Z, 0 for 10.
Buddy, back to his Kentucky days.
Buddy, please stop shooting. I thought you learned this in Lexington, but I guess not. It looked bad for Arkansas, and I just love that Auburn was able to do this.
So we've basically been talking about the SEC. Arkansas is still technically in the tournament, yes. Are they on a bubble team now?
No.
Last time I saw bracketology, they were still in it, which
Really?
blows me away.
There's like 13 teams in the SEC right now out of the 16.
There's no reason Arkansas should be one of those teams at all.
So that's why I
know
just had
Oklahoma's technically
because
still
they're
in
like
as well.
I want to say they're definitely have a losing record in conference, like 4-11 maybe. Like it's bad,
It's
and
something
they're
like
like
that, yeah.
15-10 on the year. It was unbelievable. But since you mentioned Auburn, I did just want to say the number one Auburn Tigers won also 94-85 earlier in the week, beating Alabama. Johnny Broom 19-14-6, Player of the Year. Every week I'm just going to keep talking about him because you know what? I like being right.
Did I argue with you about Johnny Broom?
No, but you
Okay.
you did not get on the bandwagon as quick as I did on Auburn because me and you were high on him last year. It's literally there's a video of you tearing up your bracket because of that damn team.
Yeah, there is. I
And you know
forgot
what?
about that.
Honestly, knowing Bruce Pearl, he's probably
I'll
going to hurt us
have to
again.
make sure I bring that back when we do our bracket reveal.
But yeah, Auburn, they're special. This team is going to be there, and I don't see a team being able to beat them until possibly one, but I'm not going to say that team. So
Puke.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. I'll. Did you want to talk about something?
I did just want to ask your guys' opinion. Bill Self, you okay, bro? Utah
I
74.
put Kansas WTF, but yeah,
Utah 74, Kansas 67.
that wasn't the worst loss
And
though.
then BYU 91, Kansas 57.
Whoa.
Third worst loss against an unranked opponent in Kansas history.
I'm gonna say I think BYU just hit another 3 as we were talking. It just absolute dominating and all that hype on Kansas coming in and how they're gonna be one of the best teams and this and that. Are we sure they're getting out of the first round the way they're playing right now? They can't win outside Kansas.
Yeah, they got absolutely soaked by BYU. Yeah, also ripped K-State's run. They lost both games in Utah as well, so I think the Mormons might just have some magic, some voodoo magic going on over there. But yeah, BYU is hot. That doesn't mean you can really trust them in March with the way they play, but they're definitely hot right now.
A team that wins at home and then when they go on the road, they tend to struggle.
Yeah, but they've been on a home streak recently because according to that metric I was talking about K-State last week, in the past month, BYU is the 11th best team in the country. So looking pretty good, but maybe a lot of home games. Kansas is very far from hot. If you ask me, this team is cooked. I have never been a Hunter Dickinson fan. I will never be a Hunter Dickinson fan. That is Zach Edey's little bro. And I don't think you just can't lead a team far into the tournament. So yeah, give me this team as also. I was happy they did what they did because it made me feel better that Purdue is not the only one that's in the shitter this week. So shout out. Do you have anything you want to say about Kansas?
They're bad. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's about all I got.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to go back to the SEC and talk about Missouri. I mean, how about that Marquez Warwick effect?
Yeah.
It's looking pretty good out there. I used that same metric I talked about BYU. Missouri has been the second best team in the nation in the past month. They are first in adjusted offensive efficiency, and that was on full display in their 110-98 win with no overtime over Alabama. And this adds to a stacked resume of wins over Kansas, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They're undefeated outside of Quad 1. They have a three-headed monster in Mark Mitchell, Caleb Grill, Tamar Bates. They're all averaging about 13.
And Marcus Work.
All averaging about 13 points per game. They're middle of the pack defensively, but they are worse than Alabama was last year at this point. So it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility for this team to make a deep run. Their best game left on the schedule is Kentucky. I believe that's how they both closed their seasons. So they went out, mind their P's and Q's for this rough, have a good conference tournament. They could end up being a 2 seed.
What a turnaround! They didn't win a game last year in the SEC, guys.
Yeah.
and now they're one of the best teams, and they might be the most slept on team. I know that's been one of our questions on a 2-minute warning in the past. Nobody's talking about them because it's Missouri basketball, and
They're talking about it now after Alabama.
Yeah.
correct. You drop 110 on Alabama. You drop 110 on anyone in college basketball, you're going to get talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dropped 59 in the first half, and you're like, surely they can't keep this up. They just dropped 51 in the second half. But this game was crazy. Mizzou shot 47 free throws. I feel like that's one of the most insane stats I've heard in a game that didn't go to multiple
Is
overtimes.
James Harden back in college?
It's the Mark Mitchell effect, I guess. But both teams shot over 50% field goal and over 39% from three. If you like offense, this was the game for you.
Yeah.
But Mizzou, the only thing I'm concerned about is can they win when they're not at home? Because they've only lost one game at home, and that's where they kind of have all these big marquee wins. I don't know if they can go and do it on the road or in neutral sites like in the conference tournaments or the NCAA. I think they can, but they just still have to prove it.
Yeah.
I got a dumb question. Where is the SEC tournament?
Atlanta, usually.
Interesting. Maybe Arizona might need to be put on hold for a year. I think that tournament going down there for the week would be amazing because that's our spring break week.
Yeah.
Huh.
Not my spring break week.
No.
Yeah.
We might have to have a conversation.
Conversations will be had
I'm
at
gonna
the
say, as a
conclusion
guy
of the
who's
show.
not an SEC guy, it literally clicked as we were talking. I was like, all 16 of those teams, outside 15, I guess LSU's pretty bad, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're pretty bad.
LSU's
They're
South
pretty
Carolina's
bad.
really bad too.
South Carolina
They're
is
pretty bad.
Out of nowhere, Karen's like, someone's on my team. We're bad.
They're pretty bad.
He hasn't gotten to talk about LSU since football season.
Yeah.
So but that
It's
would
okay,
be
baseball season started, right?
I mean, gentlemen, we might need to talk about that. And
For
I'm being
sure,
dead
yeah.
serious. It's only an 8-hour drive.
I like what you're saying.
8-hour drive. 8-hour drive. I'm just saying.
Conversations to be had
But-
after the pod. But I do have one last team I want to highlight before we move along. Welcome back, Wisconsin. I don't know where you went, but welcome back. This is the best team since the Frank the Tank days. I truly believe that. I don't think it's even close. They have an explosive offense, 95 points over Illinois, who had 74, 94 over Purdue at 84. They're the fourth best team in the country in the past month. They're 6-1 in that span. They statistically they meet that top 25 offense plus top 25 defense that is usually used for Final Four predictor. But John Tonji, he's the one that needs to be talked about. Is that how you say it? Tonji?
Yeah, I think
Yep,
so.
that is exactly it.
I tried to forget it because of how many times I heard it against Purdue. But he actually transferred from the bench at Missouri last season. He averaged 2 points per game. Had like only 8 games that he played. There might have been some injury issues in there. I'm not sure. But now he's averaging 19.6 points per game, 3.8 boards. He combined for 63 points combined. I said combined twice against Illinois and Purdue. And in the month of February, he's averaging 25.4 points per game on 53% shooting and 41% from the three. Those are some pretty solid numbers, if I do say so myself. And I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I think this team is built for a deep run in March. And honestly, I'm kind of happy for it. I'm happy to see Wisconsin back on the top. They've always just kind of been a mad team since that Frank the Tank days. And sorry to bring back.
Yeah.
I love that team. I love that team personally. They nearly got me killed at a Kentucky bar, but I love that team.
Somebody who's not a fan of Wisconsin. It's this guy. But different days. So, sure. They're cool.
Different era until they get match up against Kentucky in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8.
We got some games to look forward to this week,
Yes,
though, right?
absolutely. Let me pull those up here. We got Saturday tonight or tomorrow. Number 5 Tennessee at number 7 Texas A&M. That is a 12 noon tip off, big noon you can call it. God, I hate that word. On ESPN. 8 Iowa State at 5 Houston. That's really a battle for that potentially fourth spot, fourth 1 seed. I mean, that is at Houston, ESPN, 2 p.m. Number 18, Clemson has a tough road matchup in Texas against SMU. That's on ACC Network at 4. Number 17, Kentucky at number 4, Alabama. That's ESPN
Alex.
at 6. Number 3, Duke at unranked Illinois. That
What
should
is
be
your
a
guys' thoughts on that, by the way?
It's going to be a
Non-conference
nice
game?
It's going to be a nice 30-point blowout on Fox at 8 p.m. But no, I like it. I think it shakes things up. It's already the 2-minute warning. BYU at number 19 Arizona, ESPN, 10 p.m. Both teams are 18-8 at this point. UConn at number 10 St. John's. That's Fox at 12. 13 Purdue at Indiana, CBS 1:30. Number 5 Houston, number 9 Texas Tech. That's Monday at 9 on ESPN. And finally, Duke takes on the 6-20 Miami team. Miami, you could do something very funny at 7 at ESPN. And Mississippi State, number 21 at number 4 Alabama. That's 9 p.m. on ESPN 2. that is your lineup for this week. No, I'm not stopping for the 2-minute warning on that. But let's go ahead and get into it.
All right, 2-minute warning time. So we talked a little bit of baseball because it is baseball season, gentlemen. Should the Jays now trade Vlad Guerrero Jr. that they weren't able to get a contract done? Alex, I want to hear you talk baseball for a second.
Sure, why not?
Garrett, real thoughts.
I think this is a wait and see. If you're in a wild card spot in the deadline, I say no. If you're any lower than that, trade him because he's not signing a contract with Toronto.
Fair enough. Golden?
I think so. I do know a little bit about Vlad, and it seems like his time in Toronto feels up to me.
That's exactly how I feel. Get the most you can out of him and move on and start spending some money where it actually needs to be. We didn't have a chance to talk about T. Higgins likely being franchised and taking off the number 1 spot as a free agent. So, gentlemen, who is your number 1 NFL free agent? Colton?
Everyone's going to disagree, but I say Justin Fields.
I like that.
Garrett?
I twisted the question a little bit and said number 1 most interesting. I like Zach Bond. I want to see. I think he played into a lot of money. I want to see where he goes.
I feel like they're going to franchise him. You don't let that guy go. He became way too important in that defense.
Probably. I'd love to see him in stripes, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please. Especially now with Pratt leaving.
I don't even know how I didn't think of the Pittsburgh quarterbacks, but I went with the Pittsburgh running back, Najee Harris. You have to bring him back.
I didn't know he was actually a free agent. For me, it's a person who's a key part of the Baltimore Ravens offensive line, Ronnie Staley. That is a very, very big part that they need to find a way to resign, and I don't know if they're going to be able to.
Come on over.
Also, should the NBA adopt a U.S. versus the world like all-star game that other leagues have? Alex, words are hard sometimes.
100%. It may make the teams a little skewed, and somebody may get snubbed on the world side, and too many people may be on the American side, but this needs to happen.
Even the mindset of doing something like hockey did and breaking it off of like Team Europe versus Team Canada versus Team US, like even some kind of mini tournament on the Sunday night, I wouldn't be against.
I would definitely be for that too.
That's what
Garrett?
I thought you meant. I thought you
Okay.
were talking about something like a World Baseball Classic kind of thing, but NBA style.
Yeah. No, for this one is a lot of people have just been saying USA versus the world. So you would have like SGA would be playing with Joker, would be playing with Luka and so forth. Colton?
That is so foul, but I mean, it's like I said earlier. Whatever change you want to make, go right ahead. Maybe something will finally stick.
And then last but not least, what is your top game to watch this weekend? You did not mention it because the game is happening tonight. But for me, it's the Big Ten matchup, Michigan State versus Michigan. Michigan's got a chance to make a statement versus the biggest rival that they have, and Izzo.
Yeah, that's a sore spot. That's why I didn't mention that one. But pretty obvious for me, Purdue, Indiana, always a big matchup. So that's mine.
Those games tonight are going to be fun, but UK Alabama for me, even though we'll probably get blown out by 30, especially if Lamont Butler doesn't play. But Dickie V is going to be on the call, so it'll be okay.
Yes. I did not know that. Let's go. Garrett?
I have stopped paying attention to college basketball.
Just name 2 college basketball teams. You got this.
Does Shaquille O'Neal still play for the LSU Tigers? No, I don't care.
I just want to hear him name 2 basketball teams. Because last time he named a random basketball team, it was the TCU Horned Frogs.
The VCU Rams and the Colorado State Rams. It's still Rams Fest.
My favorite A-10 matchup.
Hey, you never know. Honestly, the way these conferences are going, it could be one day.
It very well could be. But thank you all for listening. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, all that fun stuff if you enjoyed. Also follow us on Twitter or X at NorseBWPod. Thank you NKU Media Services and Bill Farrell for all that you do, making this show better each and every week. Thank you, Garrett, for your hard work in the director's chair, and co-host for coming on and all your hard work as well. Be sure to check out the Slide Job podcast. Got Ben Miller back on there with me and Josh talking some NASCAR. So if you're interested in that, go check that out on the Left Turn Central YouTube channel. And we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
Collier.
Isaiah Collier?
No,
For who?
WNBA.
Nafisa, yeah.
Yeah, she just